أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Is our mind or consciousness hacked by the media and internet information? This is the topic for today's khutbah. And I begin by reading a verse of the Quran taken from chapter 14 that says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل لعبادي الذين آمنوا يقيموا الصلاة وينفقوا مما رزقناهم سرا وعلانية من قبل أن يأتي يوم لا بيع فيه ولا خلال صدق الله العلي العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين. I have evidence that there is one God, Allah, and I can bear testimony to the fact that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the last, the final messenger of Allah, after whom no prophet, old or new, will come. And I begin in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. The verse of the Quran that I've recited, I interpret as follows. Do say to my humble ones, those who attain inner peace and become upright through prayer, then disburse from what resources they have, while privately contented or publicly, that they do so before a period arrives when there is a lack of trade or agreement. Consciousness and awareness is an issue that is being discussed now, and books are being written on it. And the question that is being now asked is, where does it exist? Is our awareness, is our consciousness the same as our soul? Our thoughts, our ideas, do they exist within the brain, or do they exist outside of us? And we have to catch that consciousness. It may seem to be obvious to many people that consciousness is what we think, so it is within us. But for years, scientists have ignored this study of consciousness. And one of the reasons for that is because of the famous, well-known person years ago that was named Galileo, and who put forward certain ideas that were considered scientific ideas that were contrary to the church belief. And he was arrested, he was persecuted, he was asked to denounce his ideas, and in one case he did. Some say he recanted that afterwards. But in order to save his life, he put forward the idea that, look, science deals with measurable things. Things on earth that you could measure. There is coordinates, there are lengths and breadth and width and height. And not only on earth, but all over you can measure what is there. But religion should really be your personality, something that you can't really explain, what is in fact inside of you. Exploring the inner self, the soul, the spiritual aspect, things that are not physical. So that is how he said, well, I'm studying only the physical world, I'm not interfering with theology. But when it comes to consciousness and awareness, we can simply ask the question that if you look at a child, as the child is born, it only doesn't know how to even control its organs. It has certain instinct, yes, for food, and it will cry. But as it gets a little healthier, you find that the child will smile. It may smile because of Just a look that you give, where does that, is that a look that you give the child, causing it to smile? If you give a joke, the child will probably smile, but the child doesn't know what a joke is, doesn't even understand the language. Even as it grows bigger, it responds to whoever is there outside of it, that you may say something and the child will laugh. You will say something and the child will cry. So as it grows and develops, a consciousness within is developed, but that is determined or influenced by the external factors that are there, the external influences that are there. And so scientists who have ignored this for so many years are now studying, is really consciousness something external to us that influences us? Because so many people are influenced by the same ideas and concepts. You will find that if a person develops an attitude within himself or herself, and that is a fact that we do develop consciousness within ourselves, but that consciousness, after a period of time, whatever influences may be good or bad. And if you have further influence of bad in an individual, it will bring out the badness of that individual. That is the purpose of education. Education means, E means from, Dukari means to lead out. So you bring out the personality, you bring out the consciousness, you bring out the awareness of the individual as to what his or her role and function is in the world by the influences that are put there. So if a child is in an environment of good, that will influence the child to bring out the goodness in the child and stifle the evil or wrongdoing, and vice versa. If an individual is wrong, has evil thoughts, and they are influenced by good, they will in fact muzzle or or stifle their evil thoughts and grow into bring out the good that is them. And that's the purpose of an environment, that's the purpose of education, that's the purpose of school and teaching and learning. And also that's the purpose of the mosque and the Jamaat and the Jummah Khutbah, is to put ideas in people so that they can be influenced to bring out the best in them. There are others who are working just the opposite. They use the environment to bring out the bad in people. And that is why you find sometimes, especially in today's world, when there is so much information all around us, that our thoughts and our ideas and our consciousness is being hacked. And hack means other people get into our thoughts and ideas and take over and control us by those thoughts and those ideas. So that scientists are now thinking that, look, maybe our brain is like a radio or a cell phone, where there are data outside there and we just receive it. Just as a radio will receive waves, or a cell phone will receive data in the air, and it comes and then you see it in video, you see it. Similarly, we are influenced from outside. Now the danger that they are being made aware of, that if you come with this idea, then you're going to support religion. You're going to support the idea that there is a God and that God influences us outside of us. So they are coming closer to the concepts that we are taught in the Quran. So scientists having ignored this idea since the time of Galileo, who separated science from religion to save his life, they are now looking not only at measurable things, but they are looking at religion and how it, or religious ideas and how it affect our personal issues. Many of you will remember that in our Miraj, when we had the topic of autism awareness, I made a quotation from one of the Muslim psychologists by the name of Ibn Bajjah. But he has written a lot on that. He's written a book on psychology, Ilm al-Nafs, which I had read even when in my teens. Very difficult to understand, but now I can comprehend it much more, having been exposed to other ideas. There are a lot of Shias and there are a lot of Sunni saints and scholars and mujaddids who have written on this topic of consciousness and written on the topic of the mind and the soul. But it was really Mirza Ghulam Ahmad who demonstrated how the divine consciousness, God, and his attributes communicates with the individual consciousness through revelation. That revelation is a reality. There is a consciousness outside of us that is active. God is not dead. God is not a being that we'll only communicate with after we die. We are in this world, and God is in this world as well. All religions teach us that God is not extraterrestrial. God is within you. God is. Some people believe God is in everything, and that's why they worship so many things as idols, trees and animals and plants, because that's not the concept. What we are saying is that the concept of God is a being of attributes. Yes, attributes are there. Animals love their chickens, love their chicken. It's at a lower level. But the attributes of God influence everyone. The Quran tells us this, that among you, among the animals and so on, there are communities like you. And it tells us that the birds and flies, so they all worship Allah. They all have a communication with God. So at a lower level, you find that there is attraction even beyond the material, within material things. You have a positive and negative in magnets that attract each other. In a battery, you have electricity flows from it. So there is a attraction and attachment that people will call at a higher level love. Or some other name. In some cases where it is without a material object, we call it gravity, but there is always an attraction. And the Quran uses different words for that kind of attraction that attracts us to our passions and desires, that attracts us to other people, that attracts us to causes and so on. So that the Quran points out to us, and this is where Mirza Ghulam Ahmad supported the Quran by saying, when Allah says, when my servants ask you about me, Inni Kareeb, I am near. God is near to us. God is always available. We tend to think that God, or many people tend to think that God is a being that is not there. He left us to ourselves, and we have to do whatever we do, right or wrong, and then we have to go on a day in which we have to account for Him. But the Quran is saying no. The Quran is a guidance for us in this world, and tells us there are situations in this world that we'll be confronted with. One of these, for example, is the verse that I've read, which says that a period will arrive when there's lack of trade or agreement. And we see that now. There is a lack of trade because of the blocking of the Strait of Hormuz that is causing so much a problem because of the tariffs that are being imposed by certain countries. I don't know how they get the authorities to set up sanctions or tariffs they can put in their own country. But how can they sanction another country and tell everybody else, don't trade with these people, don't have any business to do with them, otherwise we will blow you up or we'll stop trading with you. And why should one person or one individual be given that kind of power to determine what should happen and how people should behave in the world? This is a serious issue that is being discussed all over the world now. So that the Quran says that there's no agreement to. And we have seen wars are there, and people are trying to make agreements. Even Muslims are getting involved to try to bring about an agreement, and it is not working. Something is wrong. The Quran says Allah does not change your condition until you change what is within you. And people are not changing what is within them. So that is important for us to understand this concept of consciousness. And what we see, however, is among individuals, all of us, every day, social media and the internet controls our thinking, our awareness, and our consciousness. It confines our mind. It hacks our thoughts to daily subjects by skillful and well-thought marketing strategies. There is even a case that was won by a parent in California just about a week or two ago, where a company was asked to pay hundreds of millions, I think it was, because the way in which they would market TikTok or one of these social media influenced a child, and the child was not studying or so, and now that is going on to gaming and other things. Because you will see, whether or not you look at at your phone, whether or not you look at the television, whether or not you look at the computer screen, whether or not you have internet or not, your mind is focused on the days happening by hearing it even from others. So somebody comes and talk to you, well, you know, there's a murder here, there's an accident here, there's a shooting here, or this thing has happened, or that has happened, there's an accident in this place, or in some part of the world, this happened or that happened. And these people may have heard it on WhatsApp, they may have heard it on TikTok or Facebook or so, and whatever they see there on a daily basis, people are looking at these things and they're being influenced so far as their health is concerned, so far as politics is concerned, so far as crime is concerned, so far as education and knowledge. In fact, that's one of the fear of the world today, where now you have an improved method of getting information through AI, artificial intelligence, and they say it is affecting the minds of people. How do you deal with that? We as an Anshuman have been dealing with it. Ever since 2 years ago, we introduced the concept of AI before even people thought about it. And we have continued to educate people on this and point out to them that, look, AI is not only artificial intelligence, it's not artificial. AI is also Ahmadiyya intelligence. That is, we can give you interpretations from the Quran to enhance your intelligence. And that's why our khutbahs are based not upon the rituals of prayer and fasting and charity, but how the teachings of the Quran can improve our thinking and our behavior. So that if we look at the world today and you take the general situation of what is called democracy, it is tend to be political, meaning that it is so-called government of the people, by the people, for the people. A dictatorship is sometimes like that too. People appoint dictators. Now when they do that, then they say, well, the election is rigged. But if they are appointed, then the election is okay. So those who are appointed, one person described democracy as a system where people appoint, they give people the power, a few people the power, put them in power as a government to take away your rights. So you have the right to vote, you appoint one, and then they take away your rights by imposing so many issues and so many things. We see that even now people are contesting anything that the government puts in place. But we find that democracy tends to be more political and not economical. And that is a term that is being discussed right now again in the world. Whether the economy of the world is democratic. We don't vote for the economy of the world. We are just victims, and in fact it has been slaves since colonial times and even before, in almost every civilization, that we have no say in the economic situation. If the gas prices go up, we have nothing. If the prices of food go up, we have nothing. We can only have an opportunity and a right to vote for a government. Not only here, but in any part of the world. That's what democracy is supposed. Change your regime, change your people, whether they do good or bad. But you just have you have the right only to focus on government, not on economy, not on social welfare, not on other things. The government can stop social welfare. They can stop grants to education, to NGOs, to religious groups, whatever. They have that right. We can do nothing about it. As we see in the world today, there is so much of war and fighting and ill will, even among Muslims themselves, and we can do nothing. Even within the same Christian groups, you find people are killing each other. You find within the Hindu groups, people are killing each other. Within Muslim groups, people are killing each other. Within Jewish groups, people are fighting and killing each other. So that you find that what is and who in fact is controlling the world, it is the consciousness of the individuals that are influenced by ideas. If you are told to fight, if you are told to fight for democracy and freedom, you commit yourself, you are given a salary, you are paid, and you go there and face death even. Of course, many countries of the world don't want to see their own people die. They don't mind bombing and missiling other countries, and children even can die. That's nothing to them. 100 people, 200 people, 60,000 people, that's nothing. But if one soldier dies or two soldiers from among themselves, that's a big issue. And then you find that some countries in the world are concerned about the economic situation because they spend billions in having the most sophisticated weapons, only to have what the Quran calls Tyran Ababil, drones, which are there, small things which are there coming and dropping missiles on you and destroying these billion things that are very cheap. And they are destroying billions of dollars of the opponents as well. So we have no control over the economic situation because, and then we are influenced not to even discuss that. We may just talk about it and say, well, prices go up, things are expensive more in the grocery, things are expensive more in the marketplace, but we can't do anything about it. So that we have to manage our own economic affairs. And that is why the Quran says, it teaches us how to manage that. Because our consciousness is influenced by external factors we have to be influenced by another external factor, and that is the factor that the energy that comes from God and the guidance that comes from Him. And He says in the Quran, disburse from what resources you have while privately content. You do so with joy. Sir in Arabic is translated as secret, but it means to be happy to do something without others knowing it. It's just a feeling of satisfaction that I do. Even if nobody applauds me or give me a thank you note or even a receipt, I am satisfied that I want to give. It's something that comes from my heart. I become a broad-minded individual. Not an individual who wants to fight and kill other people and start wars and so on. Or publicly. I may do so, and Mirza Ghulam Ahmad has pointed out to us, the reason for giving publicly is that when you give, you encourage others to give. So a person may give privately, yes, this is what I want to do, and that is permissible in the Quran. But then sometimes we want to give publicly so that we want other people to support. The project is too big for me to handle. And if I give something, I can encourage others to do so as well. So the Quran is teaching us how to broaden our heart. And that's why it has given us the concept of zakah and sadaqah. Now, zakah is really a means of what we call gathering a common fund, as it were. Crowdfunding, as it's called on the internet, that people contribute towards a cause. And the Quran says, don't eat away your wealth among yourselves without purpose. Whenever you utilize in your home, you budget it, you do it with purpose. And if you give also to others, you spend, you give to your children, you give to your neighbors, you give to your jamaat, you give to your anjuman, do so with a purpose. There must be a purpose, an idea. Look, I'm giving for the propagation of Islam, I'm giving for the mosque, I'm giving to maintenance of the mosque, I'm giving for the alleviation of the poor, I'm helping this particular cause. And it does not only mean money. I can give my effort, I can volunteer my time, I can cook something, I can be present to assist in some way or the other. And the Quran says, do not make purposeless your sadaqah. And sadaqah is really where you personally give something. Zakat is collection. Sadaqah is disbursement. So zakat means a project in which funds are collected for a particular purpose. Sadaqah means when you disburse it, whether from zakat or on your own, you disperse it. So the Quran speaks about zakat as a pooling of charity, while sadaqah is private distribution. Because even if you give zakat to people, it's not necessary to announce it. It's not necessary to make people feel belittled that, look, they're getting some kind of charity, from the mosque or the jamaat or people or so. That's why sadaqah is privately. You may go privately to an individual and give them some kind of help and assistance. And the Quran is indicated to us. It says that those attain happiness are those in whose wealth there is a known right for the beggar and the destitute. And it points out to us, what should you spend? How should I give zakat? How should I spend of the resources? And Eid al-Adha is coming up now. People want to know, well, how much? And that question has been asked to me from another member of another anjuman in a different part of the world. How much do you need to spend? Because things are so expensive now. Animals are expensive now. How can we, make this affordable for people? So the Quran is pointing out what you should spend. It says simply what you can spare. You have to determine yourself. This is where economic democracy is your right. It is not the right of the government, it's not the right of others. You have whatever the resources you have, of assets, of funds, of knowledge, of whatever you may have. You may have clothing, that are used clothing and so on. You are given that right to be able to utilize it. That is what economic democracy is all about. The right of the individual to use their assets guided by God. And God says those assets are guided by me. Inna atayna al-kawthar fasalli rabbika wanhar inna shaniyaka huwal abtar. He says, I have given you abundance. It may not be abundance of billionaires, and we see how people who have billions of dollars are either committing suicide or getting themselves in trouble in some way or the other. So many prominent people have been now influenced by an individual, an abundance of wealth, Epstein, and they have lost their integrity, they have lost so many things. So that it doesn't mean that people who have billions are really in a more fortunate position than us. we are given the opportunity to use whatever resources we have, knowing that I'm doing it for the sake of God, because ultimately I'm going to leave everything. I can build the biggest business and have the most richest person in the world. I will die. Anybody will die who has, no matter if they own the entire world, and they'll be put in the earth or burnt just as any other individual. Then they become equal with others. So the Quran points out to us that when we look at zakat, zakat is really an attitude towards others, an attitude of purity. That's why it is preceded by prayer. Aqimus salat wa ata zakat. Purify your mind so that you can give. So prayer is intended to purify our minds so that when we give, we do so sir, that is with a happy and contented mind, or alania, that is publicly to encourage others as well. We see fun in this. If I give and I see other people give, I feel very happy. And then the Quran points out to us the contrary of zakah is riba. And riba is an impurity of attitude. Now, unfortunately, zakat and riba are moral concepts which have and moral behavior which have been made into a material function, that it has to be put in money and sheep and goat and so on. But the Quran is quite clear in the use of the word zakat, that means purity and growth. It doesn't mean money. And riba is the same as well. It means doubling. It means overcharging, overspending. It also means growth. And in fact, the word riba is used for sadaqah. Allah says He will yarbu sadaqat, He will double your sadaqah. And the word riba is used there. So zakat and riba are moral concepts and behavior which in fact have been made into a material function, unfortunately. But zakat as an attitude results in pardon and forgiveness, the Quran says. This is how you bring the attributes of Allah into your life. And pardon and forgiveness doesn't mean for your sins. It can mean for your ailments, that I may be suffering from some kind of affliction, but when I give of myself, not necessarily my wealth, but myself, I give myself to God, I depend upon Him, you find that I have my ailments are alleviated. They may not disappear completely, but they become manageable. So zakat as an attitude results in pardon and forgiveness. And pardon means that Allah may even wipe off the disease completely, or wipe off the economic situation completely. And forgiveness means protect you so that you wouldn't go into a relapse. That is a simple teaching of the Quran. Pardon and forgiveness is not only for sins, it is for every aspect of our life. So Allah does not demand of you your wealth, the Quran says. He wants you to willingly give it. That you must develop that attitude, each individual within myself, that I am a giver. I follow the principle of givology. That is the science of giving. So charity widens the heart of a person who makes it capable and develops a broad sympathy and feelings, whereas usury really narrows the mind and generates feeling of selfishness and greed. And that's the problem with the world today. We don't have economic democracy, and zakat therefore is not merely a tax that you pay, an annual tax. It is a principle to develop economic democracy in each and every individual. So true greatness is not in possessing riches. True greatness is in the possession of high moral and spiritual qualities, the attributes that come from God. Spending in charity makes you great with Allah. That is what the Quran teaches us. The Quran says, whenever you give of zakah, desiring Allah's pleasure, these will get manifold. You will get more and more and more. Because if Allah sees you are giving, He knows you are a giving person, He will give you to give. He will increase what you have so that you can give more. So Islam teaches us that God will bless us with riches for our hard work. You work hard, it says you should not get except what you work for. Wealth and resources should not come easy. You should work for it. A child cannot say, well, I'll cheat and I'll pass my exam. I can easily pass exam if I copy, if I take from somebody else. No, you work for it and develop your own mind. But then we have to part with them to further His cause. So He gives us resources, we work hard, we get resources, we use for ourselves, but there is something we can spare that we give to our mosque, our jamaat, our anshuman, because there are others in need. We may not know who they are, and needs are not only for food and drink. People need education, they need to learn Arabic, they need to learn the Quran, in order that this principle be continued. So Islam teaches us that God will bless us for riches, for hard work, no doubt, but He will reward us for parting with them to further His cause. So people would take pleasure in acquiring worldly goods. We don't, no doubt about that. Even a child, when they gets a gift, any worldly thing, they get a toy, they get a phone or so, they're very, very happy. They get a computer, they get a new clothes or so, they're very happy. They take pleasure in getting worldly goods. But to really find happiness, they must give up some of it. So if a child gets a phone and a game toy, they have pleasure, but they must that's pleasure. But happiness is when I can give it up. So I can do something else. I can help my mommy or daddy. I can sweep the place. I can look after myself. I'm not only addicted to it and influenced. My consciousness is not there that I'm controlled by this particular gift. I can control myself as to when to use it, when not to use it. And anything, if I'm on social media, I know when I should stop it so that I can cook my food, I can communicate with others as well. There are times when we have to do that. We have to give of ourselves for ourselves as for others. So the Quran points out to us that real happiness is when you have to give up some of it. فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ. So you need to communicate with God, but you also need to sacrifice. And the Quran teaches us that Allah will obliterate riba. That is an impure attitude. And He causes sadaqah, sadaqah which means sympathy, fellow feeling, to prosper. For Allah does not love everyone who fails to use His gifts. He has given us gifts, and who behave in a way which brings no spiritual benefits. So everything we do, we must do in order to bring spiritual benefits. It make the individual a better person and the way we judge that. That's why we give a day of judgment. The judgment is how much of divine qualities do I have in my mind, not how much money I have in my pocket or in my bank account. How much of Allah's attributes do I have within myself? That is the real essence of indeed wealth, so far as Islam is concerned. بارك الله لنا ولكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعنا وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم إنه تعالى جواد كريم ملك بر رؤوف رحيم.